make sure it actually starts streaming before we start the actual predictions. All right. And we're good. The live stream is up whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. We are coming at you straight from Winners Central. Well, two of our teams are. My team still can't figure out how to win, but that's a different story for a different day. Today we have predictions. So, our first game of the docket is the Steelers versus the Browns. I'll take this one because Deshaun Watson tiebreaker. I am gonna. Oh wait, no. Let's just hand it off to Jack because he decided to beat the Browns in 2 minutes.
Yup. But this time, I'm going to actually pick them this week. This one is close because, honestly, when you look at both these teams, they both had pretty bad week twos. The Steelers lost a horrible game to special team blunders against the Patriots, 14-17. The Browns had a crazy meltdown against the Joe Flacco-led Jets, and Garrett Wilson was going off. Talk about him when we get to the Jets. But ultimately, the Browns just put up more points, and I get it was against the Jets' run defense, which isn't too good, but Steelers just hadn't been able to move the ball outside of maybe the Bengals game a little bit. I trust the Browns' offense slightly more. I think they're going to be able to lean on their running game. I think it's going to be a pretty boring defensive fight. But ultimately, I think Nick Chubb will be a tiebreaker. He'll outplay Najee slightly in this game. I'll give the game to the Browns here. What about you, Zach?
The Browns' defense didn't look good, but the Patriots kind of for the Steelers didn't make the Steelers look any good. So I'm gonna have to go Browns too. The Browns are just they seem like they're a little better. I know the Jets loss is a little concerning, but how boring that Patriots Steelers game was. I think Browns are a lot better of a team because they number one can score more than 14 points. And they've scored more than just one touchdown last week. So yeah. Josh? Sure.
I really gotta go with the Browns here. Now, the game against the Jets, I think, was like a one-off, and whatever hype we were giving to the Steelers on beating the Bengals can now all be, I guess, taken away because Cooper Rush is there. And yeah, so I gotta go with the Browns here. I think that they are gonna have a revenge game, and it's gonna be great. So, our next game on the matchups is Zach, could you go back to playoff predictor?
Sorry. Loading.
Okay. Little technical difficulty. Okay. It is Raiders Titans. I am going to take this one because, yeah. Okay, so I have the Raiders winning here. I know that they may have just had a 24-point defeat. What the heck? Okay. So they had a 24-point defeat, but I think right now the Raiders look like a way better team than the Titans, who got blown out on Monday Night Football. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack for his take.
I think I'm also going to agree with you. I'm going to have to go with the Raiders. Titans and Raiders both have issues. They're both 0-2, so obviously something's not going right. But I feel like the Raiders, they were a little more competitive week 2. They did blow a big game to the Cardinals, but still, they were kind of in it for a little bit, where the Titans kind of just got stomped on. Derrick Henry hasn't looked the same so far throughout the year. Ryan Tannehill's played bad. The defense hasn't really held up. I think this Raiders offense is going to explode on the scene, as I don't really see how anybody in the Titans secondary, besides maybe Kevin Byard, is going to be able to stop the Raiders receiving core. So I think the Raiders should get this job done, get to 1-2. I just can't trust the Titans at this point. They've lost to the Giants on a game-losing field goal that they missed, and now they've gotten destroyed by the Bills. Or at least the Raiders, they've stayed competitive a little bit more, especially week 2. So I'll give the slight edge to the Raiders here. What about you, Zach?
Oh, she said Raiders, right?
Yeah, I said Raiders.
Yeah, I also have to say Raiders. I have to agree with Jack and Josh. Watching that game was it was scary, but just the Raiders defense kind of screwed up, and the offense kind of just it was a team implosion, and I don't think that was just because of Derek Carr. I think coaching was a huge factor in it, but have also looked very shaky this past couple weeks, and they did get blown out by the best team in football, only able to score a touchdown. Derrick Henry hasn't looked the same, like Jack said, and I think the Raiders are just gonna have to find this bounce back win, and it's here. All right.
Okay, has everyone said their take?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, next game on the list is the Patriots versus the Ravens. I will have Jack take this one. Jack, take us away.
I'm going Ravens. Now, I understand. Actually, it's crazy. There were a lot of blown leads this week. The Ravens were also a part of this club of blowing ridiculous games in ridiculous fashion. So, I understand that you don't trust them. But at the end of the day, this team still put up 30-plus points. It was not 30-plus points against the Jets, but they still put up a lot of points in both of their games. And overall, while they blew the lead to Tua, I still trust them way more than the Patriots. The Patriots' only win was a sloppy special teamers where they put up 17 points. I think that the Ravens are going to have no issues with the Patriots defense. They do not have the personnel anymore to contain a player like Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to get the job done, and he's going to be able to defeat the Patriots pretty easily here. I don't think Mac's going to have a very fun time against the Ravens defense either. They haven't been great, judging by the Dolphins game, but they could hold up against Mac Jones. Less weapons, especially not having to face the speed of what they did last week. So ultimately, I'm going with the Ravens here to get back on track. They're just a better team, and the Patriots just won't have any answers for Lamar. What about you, Zach?
Same with me. I don't know when JK's coming back. He could come back this game. They can get a fully healthy J.K. Dobbins. This team, the offense is the sky's the limit because J.K. and Lamar together with also Rashad Bateman doing really well. I feel like this team can go to new levels with those three pieces I just mentioned. Defensively, I understand they had a really harsh game. I think Tua scored 6 touchdowns on them or something like that. But the Patriots only have... Oh, this is a bad receiving core. They got Nelson Aguilar. They have... what's that guy's name? Shoot. He always drops...
Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, there we go. Jacoby Myers. I can't even name their third option. It's a pretty bad receiving core, and it doesn't have the speed like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So, with that, I have to have the Ravens winning just because they're going to outscore them by a lot of touchdowns. I'm going to say 3 touchdowns.
Okay, I have the Ravens winning also. They've just shown more in these first 2 weeks than the Patriots have. The Patriots have only gotten blown out, and like Jack said, won a sloppy special teams battle. I don't know if Belichick has it anymore. Cole Strange is looking great. I don't know why, but the rest of the team is just, I don't know. I don't think it's good this year. I think they're going to have a losing season, so I got to give it to the Ravens here. Okay. Our next game is the New York Jets, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack for his take.
I have to go Bengals here. Jets did have a great come-from-behind win in the last 2 minutes using the Joe Flacco power. Garrett Wilson was going off. The onside kick recovery. It was beautiful. It was a perfect Jets game. It was great to watch, too, at the end. But ultimately, I just have trouble seeing a team that went to the Super Bowl fall to 0-3. And while Joe Flacco did look good at moments, he also had some troubles at times as well. And ultimately, the Jets' defense can't stop screens or runs, and I expect Joe Mixon at some point to get on track this season. I think they'll be able to handle business on the ground, hopefully. Well, the Jets' pass rush should be able to get to Joe Burrow because this improved offensive line really hasn't shown up so far for the Bengals. I think that the Jets are going to get gashed in the run game a lot by Joe Mixon, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up at a certain point. And while it's going to be probably competitive because for whatever reason the Jets and the Bengals play close, even last year the weird Mike White stuff, it was close. But ultimately I have to lean Bengals here. I think the Jets will be competitive, but it won't be enough here. I think Joe Mixon will get back on track. Maybe one big play and like a blown coverage to a Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. But ultimately, I give the edge to the Bengals. They avoid going 0-3 and start to try to revive their hopes of any sort of playoff push this season. What about you, Josh?
Well, I got to go with the Jets Jets because I want to see Johnny get his second ice cream of the year whenever they beat the Bengals. And the reason why is I think Jamar will be locked down the entire game by Sauce because Sauce has just been looking amazing in these past couple of games. And just also that improved D-line's going to be getting to Burrow. And we got to remember, lost to the Cowboys last week with Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback and Micah Parsons as the defense. That is embarrassing. So, give me the Jets winning again against the Bengals. Zach?
Yeah, I can't go with the Jets. I have to go Bengals here. Like Jack said, it's really odd to see a team drop to 0-3 that just went to the Super Bowl. I can't see it, especially how good this Bengals core is. Now, I think other people will go off this game. Jack mentioned how Joe Mixon can go off. I think that too, but I think a different guy will go off, and his name is T. Higgins. I feel like whoever is the second corner for the Jets, especially their safeties up top, won't be able to deal with T. Higgins and his speed. I feel like T. Higgins will go off this week, or Tyler Boyd, one of those two receivers, with also Joe Mixon going off. And defensively, I think Garrett Wilson will have a great game for him against the Cincinnati defense, but they're also starting Eli Apple at number one corner, so there's some problems there. All right. Josh.
I said my take. So, the next game is the Chiefs versus the Colts. I'm going to take this one because Colts in the AFC South. So, I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are winning here. They have beaten multiple contenders, including the Cardinals and the Chargers. And the Colts have just been on this weird skid. They got shut out by Jacksonville. They tied with the Texans. That game probably should have been a win for the Texans if Lovey didn't do what he did on fourth down. So I don't really get the hype anymore. JT has not been looking the same like he was last year. Matt Ryan hasn't gotten into a rhythm yet, and everything just doesn't seem to be clicking for them. So I cannot, in good faith, go with the Colts. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs here. Zach?
Chiefs, they've been looking better than I thought they would, especially with the loss of Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they did beat the Cardinals. I'm not going to say anything about that because it's week one, and week one's really weird. But that Chargers game was very impressive. We're surprised on how well they were able to contain Justin Herbert, and I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do against, what was I going to say?
What are they going to do against what?
Colts, yeah. Yeah. I want to see how they contain JT. This is going to be their first big running threat to deal with, but I want to see how the Chiefs deal with this situation, how Mahomes is going to deal with the decent Colts defense. What about you, Jack?
I think I gotta go Chiefs here. The Colts, they got issues. They got real issues. Whether it's a mix of injuries on key sides of the ball, Pittman didn't play, Shaquille Leonard didn't play, and they're starting out 0-1-1. They got their annual loss in Jacksonville. I expect it not to be that ugly just because for whatever reason the Jags have their number there. But they're still pretty problematic as a team. I just can't trust them to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to have a long week. They got a lot of time to game plan. And while, like Zach said, this will be their first big test in the run game as, well, Eckler's a really good back. He also does a lot of work in the receiving game, and the Chargers are a little more pass-oriented, so there's less opportunities to run the ball. This week it's going to be JT as a workhorse, especially if Michael Pittman doesn't make it out to the game, and Alec Pierce I think is also hurt with a concussion. But ultimately I just can't trust this Colts team. They always start out slow. I think the Chiefs are going to overwhelm them early. I think they're going to take advantage of the long weekend that they had to prepare for this, and they'll get the job done, keeping the Colts winless through week 3.
Okay, so our next matchup is the Bills versus the Dolphins. So I'm going to hand this one off to Jack for his thoughts.
I have to go Bills here. I'm going to credit the Dolphins right now. They did a great job coming back. 2 of 6 touchdown passes, all that good stuff. Tyreek and Waddle went off, but it's not going to be enough to beat the Bills. That was the Ravens who had a meltdown on defense. The Bills don't have meltdowns, at least by the looks of it. Their defense has been sharp early. They destroyed the Titans. They destroyed the Rams. No one seemed to stop them. I don't think Tua's going to be able to make big enough plays to keep up with the Bills' defense. I think they're going to get overwhelmed. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are going to make it work, even against a pretty decent Dolphins defense. I just don't see the Bills falling here. They're going to get to 3-0. I think they handle the Dolphins here in Miami. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, same here. Bills are going to be crazy. They've been blowing out their teams left and right. They beat the Super Bowl champs. They destroyed the Titans, which was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. I think that they're just going to be a lot better, and they're just going to keep this reign of terror, and they're going to get the first seed. Josh Allen will probably win MVP. Everything's going to go right. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that go their way this year, except for the Super Bowl. But that's for a different video. Josh?
I'm going to have to go with the Bills here. Even though the Miami is home, the Bills have just looked dominant. There's a difference between what the Bills have done and what the rest of the NFL has done. The Bills have been dominant. Other teams have just won. The Bills have dominated all their opponents so far. The Titans last week, they made look like they're you-know-what. I'm not going to say it on stream, but they made them look silly. And then even their first week against the Rams, they made them look stupid too. And they were the Super Bowl champions. So I don't see any sort of way that this hype train is dying. Give me the Bills here. Okay. Our next matchup is the Jaguars versus the Chargers. I'll be taking this one. I got to go with an upset here. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think their matchup against the Colts, it was not like years prior where it was like a close game. Anyone could have won. This was a blowout. I think Doug Peterson has gotten down his strategy, and I think, especially with an injured Herbert on the other side, I think that the Jaguars will move to 2-1 and have a winning record for the first time in a while. So, give me the Jacksonville Jaguars here. Jack?
I think I'm going to have to go the Chargers here. It's going to be close because, to Jacksonville's credit, they've been competitive both their games, and they won their Indy game pretty handily. But still, I just trust the Chargers a little more. Well, I think Herbert being injured, whether he plays or not, isn't a big question. It's going to depend on the defense, mainly Chargers defense versus Jacksonville's offense. I think Chargers defense is going to be able to overwhelm Trevor Lawrence. J.C. Jackson is going to be 1 week healthier than he was before, so hopefully he's playing at a higher level. Chargers defense has been good, not good enough to beat Mahomes necessarily, but still, they've looked good, and they've had a longer week to prepare. So I'm going to give the slight edge to the Chargers, but don't be surprised if Jacksonville steals this game away. What about you, Zach?
I have to go Chargers also. With this, Chargers are just, they're going to be a lot better, especially with Herbert. I feel like Eckler will get a lot more, I don't know if Herbert's there or not. We're still getting that decided. But right now, I still believe that the Chargers will win. I feel like Eckler will get the ball more often. I feel like other people will, get other chances, like Isaiah Spiller and other people like that. I feel like they're going to depend on their running game, which has been why I've been mentioning running backs. And I think this Chargers team will beat this Jags team just because the Jags are not ready for a, actual team. I mean, the Colts are pretty good, but they were dealing with injuries, and they always beat them, so I'm not going to really take that into account. I'm just going to take the Chargers and look at them and basically compare them to the Commanders, and the Commanders already had a pretty good defense. Chargers, like Jack said, have a really nice defense, and I feel like that's going to be the thing to stop the Jags. So, yeah. All right.
Okay, so our next matchup is the Texans versus the Chicago Bears. I will take this one again. And I'm going to have to go with the Houston Texans here. I know, I said it last week, and the Texans couldn't pull it out in the end. But Mills has had these off and on weeks where one week he's dominant, the next week, I don't know what's happening. So, this week, I feel like everything is going to come together at Soldier Field, and the Texans are going to get their first win. Because Lovie Smith, his players will run through a wall for him. And it's not as much as Dan Campbell, but I don't care what the record says. He's 0-3 against facing the Bears. I feel like this Texans team will go into Chicago and beat the Bears for their first win of the season. Zach?
I'm going to go with the hot take here, and I'm going to go the Chicago Bears. I feel like the Texans' presence on the edge and just getting pressures is lackluster. And Justin Fields, when he has time, is one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen in these past couple of weeks. And I feel like in this game, he'll get a lot more open looks. I like Derek Stingley and Desmond King, but I do like Darnell Mooney a lot against Derek Stingley. And then the defensively, I think the Bears' defense is a little interesting. It's a weird matchup between their defense and against the Texans' offense, but I trust it because Davis Mills is going to make some mistakes. Eddie Jackson's still on the team. I feel like he'll make some couple of nice plays. Roquan's still on the team. I feel like he'll be getting pressured or some sacks on to Davis Mills and getting some tackle for a loss against Dameon Pierce. There's still some decent people on the D-line from their playoff runs. I feel like they'll actually get the win here just because Justin Fields will have to carry the load, and David Montgomery. Can't forget about him either. Jack?
I think I'm going to lean Texans here. I think this is going to be a defensive-ish battle. Bears got overwhelmed last week, Monday Night Football, to the Packers' running game. I don't think the Texans definitely don't have as strong as a running game as the Packers, but they do have a pretty decent defense through these first 2 weeks. I believe they held the Colts to not that many points, maybe like 20. The Broncos beat them only put up like 16, but overall, they put up some solid performances out on the field on the defensive side of the ball. Well, I think Mills will make a fair share of mistakes offensively that the Bears will be able to take advantage of. I think ultimately the Texans defense will put them over the top, and they'll win a pretty defensive battle in a defensive-oriented game. Give me the Texans slightly here.
Okay, so now it's time for Sunday Night Football this week. It is Niners versus Broncos country. Let's ride. So, I am going to hand it off to Zach.
Yeah, Niners. This is obvious. Since Trey Lance's injury, and I'm sorry for this, if you guys like Trey Lance or if Trey Lance is listening, this is an upgrade in quarterback. And the only thing is Kyle Shanahan didn't really know what to do with Trey Lance, and he knows what to do with Jimmy G. I feel like having Jimmy G will boost, basically not boost their chances, but it helps them a lot more than having Trey Lance out there because I feel like this Broncos defense is very nasty and can really get some great stops. They did in the Texans game and they did it in the Seahawks game. They got the stops when needed, and I feel like they won't be able to get that against Jimmy G as much as they would have if Trey Lance was playing. I also believe that their defense is a lot better too, and I feel like with their experience on going against Russell Wilson, they'll be able to stop Russ. So I feel like this is a Niners win. What about you, Josh?
I think that there's going to be a Niners win too. No shade to Trey Lance at all. It just looks like the team is running better, and the players are listening more to Jimmy G as the quarterback. It looks better, it feels better to watch, and everything is just running, I guess, better, for lack of a better term. And they seem like a well-oiled machine now, and I'm going to have to give this to the Niners. Well, the Broncos just look lost. Jack?
I also have to go Niners here. Niners, Trey Lance getting out really sucks for them because they're not going to see what they have, but Jimmy G is an experienced vet. He's been in the Niners scheme for years. He knows how to run it to perfection. There's a good chance that they potentially get George Kittle back finally, which will be a huge add over the top for them. And just feels like they've been flowing pretty decently. They lost week 1 against a weird monsoon game to the Bears, but then they came back and beat the Seahawks bad in week 2. But I think the big difference is going to be the Broncos got problems on offense, and not saying that they won't figure it out at all this season, but I mean, there's big issues. While the Seahawks and Texans have been more competitive, they're not necessarily the top-end defenses of the league like the San Francisco 49ers are. There are no Nick Bosa's or Fred Warners out there that are going to be able to make the big plays. And I think the Broncos offense, if they struggled to put up 20 on those two teams, they're definitely not going to be able to pull it off against the Niners. They have a lot of work to do on offense, and they still got to figure things out.
Okay, so next game is Kneecap Man versus Cousins. I think this is a 12 o'clock spot, so he should be fine. I'm going to hand this one off to Zach for his take.
Lions. I like this Lions team a lot. And the cornerback matchup between, I believe it's Patrick Peterson and Amon-Ra St. Brown is super scary if you're a Vikings fan. And I feel like with that matchup, it's going to be hard to deal with Amon-Ra because he's been on this tour of just getting, I believe he's had 8 receptions in the last, counting from last season too. Last 8 games, he's had 8 receptions or more. And only 8 players in the league have ever done that. And I really trust Amon-Ra St. Brown to keep that up. I feel like he'll have not 40 bomb like he did this time in fantasy, but he'll have a really nice stat line. And DeAndre Swift, it's just going to be a horrible day for the Vikings defense. Now, offensively for the Vikings, I feel like they could keep up with their production. I just feel like the Lions are going to play a lot harder, a lot more aggressive, and I trust their defense a little bit more than the Vikings defense. What about you, Jack?
I'm also going Lions here. I think the Lions, I'm going to say it, the last 2 weeks, their offense has been easily top 3 in the league. I don't know if it'll stay at this insane pace, but I think it could end very well in the top 10 to top 5 range in the league. This offense has put up 30-plus 2 weeks in a row. Last week, they did it against the Commanders, where Amon-Ra destroyed them. And the week before, they did it against the Eagles, the team that the Vikings got absolutely smoked by on defense, a team that took out Justin Jefferson, that shut down Dalvin Cook. The Lions were humming on offense during that game. They put up 30-plus on that defense. I just feel like their offense is going to be overwhelming for Minnesota. I think if they can put up 35-plus on Philly, they can do it against Minnesota, who I think has a worse defense overall, not to mention they're coming off a pretty bad primetime loss to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I feel like the Lions here are going to catch them off guard, take care of business here in the Minnesota, in home, or at Minnesota's house. I think Lions get the job done. Their offense looks good. While their defense does give up big plays, their offense overwhelms them. I'm taking the Lions. What about you, Josh?
I got to go with the Lions here. I really think that the Lions they're here now. And the Vikings, I know Kirk Cousins can't win in prime time. He's 2-10 whenever it comes to that. His only wins are against the Bears, I think. So that's not much of an accomplishment. And yeah, it's a 12 o'clock spot now, but I got to go with the Lions here. They've just been looking dominant, and I'm liking their odds of probably being a dark horse playoff team this year. Okay, so our next matchup is the Eagles versus the Commanders. Jack, take us away.
I'm going Eagles here. I like what the Eagles have been doing the last couple of weeks. They let up a lot of points, like I said in the last take, to Detroit week 1, but they pretty much dominated Minnesota for 90% of the game. Shut down Jay Jetta, Dalvin Cook, the whole thing. Commanders have been good on offense. They've been really good. Carson Wentz is, I believe, top 3 in passing yards. If not, he's at least top 5 in passing yards. They've been on a pretty crazy explosion on offense with Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel being the leaders, not Terry McLaurin, weirdly enough. But they've been a good team, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Philly. Philly's been firing on all cylinders the last couple weeks, and I think this is just going to continue. They're going to overwhelm the Commanders. I think their defense is going to be able to hold down the passing game a little better than the past 2 opponents for the Commanders, and Philly will ultimately get the job done here, moving to 3-0. What about you, Zach?
So let's go Eagles here. With the Eagles, again, like Jack said, they're firing on all cylinders, especially the running game. And I feel like the loss of Chase Young and still being gone for the Commanders is just a huge loss and a huge stop, and it's not going to help them against the run, which is what the Eagles primarily do. And having Montez Sweat and all those guys are going to really help. But there's a lot of problems on this Commanders team. Carson Wentz is one of them. I feel like the defense, especially having James Bradbury and Darius Slay, those two are crazy good, and they should be number one corners on different teams. But they will be locking down Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dawson, one of the two that gets covered by him or the other. So I feel like the Eagles have a win here. Josh?
Okay, I gotta go with the Eagles here. They have just been looking great. They are actually one of my favorites for the Super Bowl right now. I think that this team could go all the way and go up against Buffalo. That would be an amazing Super Bowl with probably the entire U.S. not having the infrastructure to handle with it. It's so many tables being broken and so much other stuff. So, give me the Eagles here. As much as I think that the Commanders will do better this week and keep on improving, I don't see a win here. But I do see a competitive matchup, so Eagles. Okay, our next matchup is the Saints versus the Panthers. I'll take this one because NFC South. I will be going with, I gotta go with the Saints here because even though that they didn't really look good against Tom Brady and they didn't really get their usual win, I think that they are still a really good team at the end of the day. Now, Jameis is hurt. He has a spinal fracture from L1 to L5. If I'm wrong, you guys can say it in the comments. But I believe that that's what he has. So, as much as he's going through pain, I think that the receivers, hopefully their running game and their defense just all start to fire off. And I think that they will be able to beat the Panthers. Zach, what's your take on this?
Saints. I feel like the Saints with Michael Thomas and Chris Olave are a very good duo for Jameis to throw to. I know that Jameis is in a lot of pain. Kamara should be better in this game, especially because of how bad the running defense is. And we haven't really seen I wouldn't say a good Kamara, but we haven't seen normally what Kamara is like. So I feel like if we can get what Kamara is usually like in games, which is like a 20 bomb usually, or at least 10 points this week, I feel like the Saints are going to be in a better situation. I'll be more confident to call them a playoff team. But right now, Saints. Jack?
I'm also going Saints here. Panthers have been real concerning over these last few weeks. Put up a decent comeback against the Browns. They fell short. This week, the Giants in a weird defensive slow battle. They lost that one too. But ultimately, I like the Saints much better as a team. I think they're going to struggle to cover Michael Thomas, Olave, and Landry. I don't know what Kamara's situation is with the rib injury. We'll see if he comes back. If not, Mark Ingram should be able to hold it down for a little bit. Not to mention Baker Mayfield versus the Saints defense. Saints defense's experience, and they're good at what they do. I think that they'll be able to create turnovers, make Baker make mistakes, and ultimately come out on top, winning this game, sending the Panthers to 0-3.
Whew. Okay, so our next game is the Falcons versus the Seahawks. Zach, take it away.
Oh, this is a horrible matchup. I gotta go. Yikes, this is really bad. Holy, I didn't really think about this one too hard. I'm gonna go Seahawks. It's weird to say it, but the Seahawks have a better core, in my opinion, especially with Geno Smith running it. They didn't look that good against the Niners, but the Falcons also. Yeah, the Falcons didn't look good against the Rams. That was mostly at the ending where the Rams started to choke that lead. And if it wasn't for God, that gives me more reasons. You know what? I'm changing my answer. Falcons. I literally just had to say it out loud. But the Falcons literally almost came back. They almost came back against the Rams, and the only reason they didn't win is because Jalen Ramsey got a pick off of Marcus Mariota when he threw it right into the end zone. If that goes the other way for a jump ball, the Falcons win that game, and the Rams drop to 0-2. That's really concerning. I'll talk about the Rams the next one down there for Cardinals Rams, but right now I'm talking about the Falcons. It was an amazing battle from them. I need to see more from Kyle Pitts, But other than that, I really like this Falcons team and where they're going. I feel like they can get their first win of the season right here. Jack?
I think I'm also going Falcons here. This is borderline tank bull at this point. We'll see. Maybe one of these teams turns it around. I highly doubt it. But the Falcons got the better bad team offense, and the Seahawks have a better bad team defense. So it's kind of tough. But overall, the Falcons, they've weirdly enough put up some points. They choked the Saints game. They almost came back against the Rams. But while they're not using all of their offensive weapons, mainly Drake London is leading the charge at this point in time. A little bit of Cordell here and there. I think that their offense has put up points, and I think they'll put points up against the Seahawks, and they'll do enough on defense to escape. Probably an ugly win for the Falcons, but they will secure their first win of the season. I'm taking the Falcons. What about you, Josh?
I'm going to have to go with the Seahawks here because they've been competitive with the teams that they played against, with the Broncos and the Niners. As much as I want to go with the Falcons, I got to go with the Seahawks here. Okay, so our next matchup is the Rams versus the Cardinals. Zach, what is your take?
Cardinals. There's some really good reasons for this. The Rams, again, I'm going to mention this Falcons game because this Falcons game is a really bad matchup. I don't really want to talk about their Bills game. That was just week one. Week one always has some weird stuff that happens. But this is really where teams can really show what type of team they're going to be. And the Rams almost choked that entire lead. They're not going to be able to do that against the Cardinals. We just saw a team choke a lead against us, the Raiders. And we beat them, didn't we? Exactly. Byron Murphy, Isaiah Simmons, great job there. Kyler Murray carrying us back to there. I feel like if the Rams start to choke, they're not going to be able to recover like they did in the Falcons game. We're going to be able to beat them because of how good Kyler Murray and I believe Rondale Moore is going to be coming back. A.J. Green looked really good in that last game. Greg Dortch is super underrated. Defensively, we've been great. We had a little bit of problems in the first half, but if we can bring our second half selves to that game, the Rams are going to get killed this game. And we're going to get our first actual win at home against the Rams in a long time. So I got to go Cardinals here. What about you, Josh?
Well, I got to go with the Cardinals here. I think that the Cardinals will be... This is their statement win right now that could really help them in a tight battle for the NFC West like it always is. And I think that they're going to make a statement here at home. Jack, what's your thing? What's your take?
I think I'll also go Cardinals here. Rams got problems. Not to say that the Cardinals are perfect, but the Rams, they seem like really problematic this season. They almost blew the lead to the Falcons, embarrassed by the Bills. It's pretty sketchy. The Falcons' offense is nowhere near the talent level of the Cardinals' offense, and they almost choked that game away pretty bad to those guys. So I think ultimately, the second half Cardinals are showing up to this game, and they're going to get the job done here. I just don't trust the Rams as of late. I don't think their offense has been moving the ball as well as it normally did, or at least as well as it did last year. I think the Cards will get the dub here, go up 2-1, and I think that'll put them tied for first in the NFC West. Give me the Cardinals.
Okay, so our next matchup is the Packers versus the Bucks. A rematch from the NFC... What was that? The NFC Divisional or Conference Championship 2 years ago?
Ooh.
I think it was Conference
Championship when they made that Super Bowl run because they faced the Niners last year. It was pretty
Conference Championship 2 years ago. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, and my take will be that the Buccaneers will win. As much as it was great to see Green Bay, like they always do, own the Bears, I don't see any sort of way that they're going to beat the Bucks. The Bucks aren't the healthiest team, but they still have a great defense. They still have Brady under center, so you can never count them out. And everything for them is just still there. It's still clicking. And I think that the Packers are going to have a hard time keeping up with the Bucks. So, Jack, what are your thoughts on the game?
I think I'm also going to go Bucks here. I don't expect a lot of offense in this game, if I'm being honest. Obviously, you have the Packers situation at wide receiver, non-existent. And I understand they beat the Bears. That's great. They've always beat the Bears, and the Bears couldn't stop the run. Bucks a little different. They're experienced defense. They're good at stopping the run. And while apparently Akeem Hicks is supposed to miss some time, I think that they have a deep enough defensive rotation and the defensive tackle spot where they'll still be able to impact the game, stop Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on that side of the ball. While Brady's offense isn't really pretty, they got injured Leonard Fournette that's going to play through potentially. They have injured Julio Jones, suspended Mike Evans, out Chris Godwin. I think ultimately Brady, this will be a weird vintage Brady game where he carries a bunch of weird receivers and tight ends to victory here on the back of a crazy defensive battle that the Bucks are ultimately going to come out on top of. The Packers are not going to be able to establish their run game like they were able to against the Bears, and that's going to be the big difference because so far the Packers have not proved they could pass the ball at a high volume this season. So give me the Bucks. What about you, Zach?
I gotta go Bucks. Their defense, like I believe all of you have said, their defense is really good. They held Jameis Winston only to 10 points last game, I believe, and they had 3 interceptions. And I don't think it's going to be Tom Brady that's going to be carrying the load. It's their defense. Their defense had a lot of great plays, 3 picks last game. One of them was 6th, I believe. A couple of them were 6th. I feel like with Aaron Rodgers and his weakened receiving core, it's going to be a little easier to cover them, which will lead to more picks because of the inexperience on his receiving core. So I feel like this will lead to a lot of picks, and the Bucks will win by getting more defensive stops than the Packers defense will. All right, cool. So last match.
Okay. So our final matchup of the video is Monday Night Football. Oh, great. Don't even turn on your TVs. It's Cowboys versus Giants. I'll hand this one off to Jack for his take.
Both these teams so far have had very strange seasons, to say the least. But ultimately, I guess I'll give the edge to the Giants here. While I didn't pick them the last 2 weeks, I think I'm finally going to hop on board this week. This is going to be a weird game, I can already tell. Cooper Rush looked decent against the Bengals, but a lot of the issue came with the pass protection with Joe Burrow. And not to say the Giants' O-line is good by any means. I think they're also going to struggle. I think Saquon is going to be a factor here. I think they're going to try to run the ball, and I think they're going to have some decent amount of success with Saquon on the ground. It's going to be ugly, probably defensive-oriented, but ultimately, I'll give the slight edge to the Giants at their home Monday Night Football to win in MetLife, for them to be 3-0, which is really weird. So, I guess give me the Giants. What about you, Josh?
Well, I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. Cooper Rush, he looks pretty good. And I don't know about the Giants, but I think that they're going to keep it close. But I believe that Cooper Rush and the Cowboys will be getting the win in New York here. Zach?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cowboys. It's not because of Cooper Rush. It's not because of that offense. Their defense is ran by Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons is the only contributor. And if the Bengals had an improved O-line, allegedly improved O-line, what are they gonna do against a team like the Giants that have no O-line? Micah Parsons is literally gonna get like 5 sacks this game, or something stupid. I feel like even if you triple team him, Michael Parsons is still gonna get to your quarterback. And I feel like that pressure to Daniel Jones will really shake him up. Joe Burrow doesn't really get shaken too much. I get that he's thrown 3 picks in the Steelers game. I don't know how many picks he threw this game. But still, I think the Cowboys will win just because of Michael Parsons defensively and somehow Trayvon Diggs getting his like 1 INT, which he looked good last game. I'm not going to say he didn't. And then the offense just has to do the bare minimum with Tony Pollard to win this game. So I'm gonna say the Cowboys, and yeah, that's week 3 predictions. If you liked them, hit the like button. If you enjoy watching us, hit the subscribe button. Turn on post notifications so you can get our content weekly. We usually post like after Monday Night Football, so either Tuesday or Wednesdays, because then Thursdays. Football.
No, you can go and finish up. I'll say it later.
And then also we film Fridays for what are they called? It's basically for high school football. We sometimes post clips about in high schools or similar high school every year. So yeah. So yeah. Other than that,
Yeah.
Jack looks.
As
Oh wait,
always,
before that, let me just say, don't forget to tune in. I usually post the clip Saturday. Don't forget to tune into this week's Friday Night Chronicles. This week is rivalry week. We have the Cavaliers versus the Chaps. This is a very big rivalry game. It's basically college football for $12. So you do not want to miss out on this week. For all you new viewers, we get some of the best football in the world for probably $12 a ticket. And so you got to be here next week or this week on this Saturday. So come out, show up, and I can't wait to see you guys then. Jack, hit the plugs.
as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Frontline FB. You know, it's up there. And this is going to be... NFL's been weird the last 2 weeks, so I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of unexpected stuff to happen this week too. But tune in. I think we'll be back to Wednesdays for the predictions for the live stream. And put in your hot takes and all that in the comments if you want to do that too. And tune in this weekend for the High School Football Chronicles too. Those are always going to be fun. There's been some crazy stuff to happen at both of the games so far. I expect that trend to continue, but we'll be back here next week for more predictions. Or if you're into the High School Football Chronicles, we'll be back here Saturday for some high school football vlogging. Either way, we'll see you guys back here next time.